Do an intro.
Oh, so I'll just take it from the top. I'll count 1, 2, 3 and start. Okay, D?
All right, sounds good.
All right, hold on. First, I'm going to have a drink of water. Damn, is that good?
Water.
God damn, is that water good? 1, 2, 3. Earlier today, I promised that I'd bring Terry Cosgrove on, President and CEO of Personal PAC, and I'm a man who delivers on my promises. With me on the phone, the man they call TC. Put your big boy pants on, Terry Cosgrove. Welcome back to the show, Terry.
Thank you very much, Ben. I thought maybe you'd cancel the show so you could watch President Trump behind the podium today for his debut performance.
He's returning to COVID updates.
Yeah, today is everyone's on the edge of their seat. Yeah, waiting for his advice on how we can tackle this thing. So.
The last person in the world I would listen to for advice on anything, but in particular on COVID-19, would be Donald John Trump. We'll probably be talking about that tomorrow. Great. By the way, is Dr. Fauci with him? Did he bring Dr. Fauci with him?
No, he's doing it all alone. No one else. Just him. Yeah,
right.
They're just getting all Trump. Yeah, and it was interesting. His press secretary just said he is tested multiple times a day for COVID. So people are wondering what that means. But at any rate, we're wasting precious time on him.
Yeah, we are wasting.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Donald Trump, when he hears there's a COVID test, he starts studying. Sorry, bad joke. All right. So Terry Cosgrove, as I said, President and CEO of Personal PAC, which is reproductive rights. PAC, the largest and most significant in the state of Illinois, I would say. There are 2 reproductive rights issues that the Supreme Court just dealt with. I want to talk about both of them. With Terry, the one, June Medical Services versus Russo, Little Sisters of the Poor versus Pennsylvania. You probably know the latter one having to do with birth control and Obamacare. That did not go well for people who believe in reproductive rights. We'll get to that. We'll start with the first ruling. I think it came out first. It was 5-4, and a lot of liberal. Let me just say this, Terry. You're not agree. This is me speaking, not you. But many of my beloved liberals are so naive, and they think, this is me talking, Terry Cosgrove, so feel free to vigorously disagree with me. But they think, oh my God, it's 5-4. John Roberts ruled with the liberal wing. That means Roberts has changed. All is well in the world. Then they want me to support fair maps or something like that. And I'm always trying to tell liberals, you guys are naive. You're like living in a land surrounded by wolves, and they attack. Okay? They love John Roberts, my friend John Roberts. All right, Terry, break it down. It was 5-4. Explain some of the issues at play in this ruling.
Well, first of all, let me start out by saying I was beating my head against the wall most of the day with the reactions that people were having to it, similar to what you just described, because he voted it for the Texas restriction, which was mirrored almost exactly the Louisiana, and he just did it on a technicality. This was a total technicality. John Roberts has not changed his position at all. He is still anti-choice. He has repeatedly said that he would be in favor of overruling the 1992 decision that upheld Roe, and that basically limited it but upheld it, and he said he's in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. So where people are getting all this excitement about what that case was about. Now, I do want to say it was good news in the sense that for a very brief time, women in approximately 15 states that would have been subject to this were given a reprieve, but it does not in any way indicate what the court will do in the future. In fact, given the way the opinion was written and everything about it, it certainly gave the right-wingers in the anti-choice movement a roadmap as to what John Roberts and the anti-choice people on the court would accept in the future. And currently, I believe there's about 6 cases pending in the judicial pipeline that will make their way to the court, or some of them are already on the docket for next term. We'll give them every opportunity to overturn Roe. So like you, Ben, I did not understand the excitement at all because there was really very little reason forth, other than that for the very short term, it gave a lot of women in these states where this law could have applied to get a little reprieve, and that was it.
In past shows, Terry, you've pointed out that these so-called trap laws or targeted regulation on abortion provider laws are sort of a backdoor way to undercut Roe by putting so many restrictions on abortion providers that effectively you put them out of business. So I think the one in Louisiana, the specific one, had to say that the providers had to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals. I think that's what it was. And
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a total, it was a total take place, ambulatory medical procedures that take place where doctors don't have to have admitting privileges at a hospital, which are much more dangerous than dangerous. And I put that in quotes because there are so few complications with abortion. And it was only meant to harass doctors and to harass women and to literally break down and destroy the number of medical facilities that would be available to do abortion care. And as I pointed out before on your show, one of the most hypocritical versions of this bill was what Ohio tried to pass, which said that no doctor could perform an abortion in the state of Ohio if they didn't have admitting privileges at a hospital. And then in the same bill, there was a clause that said no hospital in the state of Ohio could grant admitting privileges to any doctor who does abortions. So where does that get you?
They thought they were being slick, Terry.
Right, exactly. So, so you're right. There's no reason to read anything into this decision other than it's a short reprieve for reproductive rights. And let's not forget that close to 90% of the counties in the country don't even have an abortion provider. So this whole discussion about Roe v. Wade and when is it really going to be overturned and all of that is really irrelevant because for the last 20 years, Roe v. Wade has been in the rearview mirror of young women, of low-income women, and rural women who don't have access. And they haven't had access because of the restrictions that have been put into place over the last 3 or 4 decades since Roe. So we're just like narrowing the funnel on how many women actually have access to abortion care. It's already happening. We don't need Roe v. Wade to be explicitly overturned. The denial of the right of access to legal abortion has already happened to millions of American women as we speak right now.
All right. And
without any more action by the U.S. Supreme Court or state legislators.
And Terry alluded to this, the Texas law, which is very similar to the one in Louisiana. And I believe it was in 2016 that the Supreme Court voted 5-3 to overturn the Texas law. Now, the reason it was 5-3, there was a vacancy on the Supreme Court at the time. And I'm going somewhere with all this, Terry.
No, it was a 4-4. It was a 4-4, and that's why it was struck down, because Scalia would have been the fifth vote.
I believe it was 5-3, but whatever.
Okay. Listen, I'm not going to argue with the champ here. You're the okay.
Wait, you're the champ on this stuff. I believe it was 5-3. We can make one of our famous bets. But
okay.
Scalia, the point is that I was making was that Scalia was not on the bench at the time, and as a result, but he's since been replaced, of course. And he was replaced by Gorsuch, who has shown, at least on the matter of reproductive rights, that he's no champion of women. Would you agree with me on that point, Terry?
Yes, absolutely.
So it just points out the significance of the move made by Mitch McConnell back in 2016 to prevent President Obama for naming Merrick Garland to the court. Just one more ramification of that decision and how important these Supreme Court rulings, these Supreme Court vacancies are. All right. So now we move on to the Little Sisters of the Poor versus Pennsylvania, which most people know as the birth control case. Give us a little background on that one, T.
Right. That this was about a group of nuns who sued to say that even though they were given the option of opting out of the birth control mandate in the ACA, they still went ahead and sued and said it was too burdensome because they had to actually fill out a one-page form and put their signature on it saying that they were opting out. So they went ahead and sued and said that it was an attack on their religious beliefs and it was an undue burden, even though there was no obligation that they had to provide the birth control. And they won. The court sided with them, and really the result of this case was that the wall, the separation between church and state, was bulldozed by this decision. And on future decisions, because the right wing has built over the last decade its attacks on all kinds of rights is built around this whole notion of religious refusal. And now it's religious and moral refusal, which means that anyone that has a moral or and I'm putting this in quotes, my fingers doing the air quotes, but moral or religious objections to someone's sexuality, to their race, to their religion, to the fact that they use birth control, that they want birth control covered in their insurance, obviously to abortion, then that excuse can be used to override basically any of the rights that exist under civil rights laws or any other common sense laws in the country. And this is the new front in the acts of the right wing on our right. And so even the cases that came down earlier in the session around LGBTQ rights, all of those can be overridden by this religious refusal clause that is gaining more and more popularity, not only among the right wing, but also it is new justices to the court, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Roberts isn't new, have bring to the court and basically say that anyone can use a religious refusal or a moral objection.
Yeah, it is a
that is
disturbing
dangerous.
trend. We saw it with the case of the baker who did not want to provide a wedding cake. Was it for a gay couple that was getting married? Same sort of principle. Right. They were arguing that their religion prevented them from baking a cake for a gay couple, which is absolutely absurd in my humble opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new and dangerous front. And when I was reading the newspaper accounts of this, Terry, I had this thought about Democrats. Follow me on this. One of my objections, I think I may have registered this to you in the past, is that Democrats are always trying to be so conciliatory with Republicans on matters, particularly of reproductive rights. And I remember the Hyde Amendment, which was in the 70s, when Democrats agreed, they signed on to not using public dollars for abortions. They were bowing to Henry Hyde. And that has come back to haunt women, I think, throughout the country, the Hyde Amendment. In a similar way, the original Obamacare gave a provision, it had a provision in it that would allow for people who have religious convictions to opt out. As you point out, the Little Sisters of the Poor were saying, well, we don't even want to bother filling out the form. That's too troublesome.
Right.
But just that opened the door. Do you follow what I'm saying? Putting that language in.
Listen, Ben, you are touching on, I think it was hindsight is very, very valuable, but I really feel that it was a huge strategic error to give the anti-choicers any quarter whatsoever, and that has come back to haunt us over the 40 years, and that's why at Personal PAC, my motto is pro-choice, no exceptions, and no excuses either, because the mistaken rationale that goes into this is there is some restriction that you can give the right-wingers short of making all abortions illegal under all circumstances for all time and for all women, that there's something short of that they will accept and say, you know what, that's enough. They said they didn't want their tax dollars to go pay for abortion, so people said, okay, we'll go along with that. And then the minute they did that, they've come back with 50 other 50 other attacks, whether it's parental notice, whether it's reading women anti-choice propaganda before they can get an abortion, whether it's 48-hour waiting periods. It just goes on and on, restrictions on women who need to have later term abortions. It just goes on and on. There isn't a single thing that any elected official can give the anti-choice movement that's going to satisfy them other than making every single abortion illegal in this country, and birth control, I might add, for any and all reasons. And that's where I think that the trap is that, Democrats and the political class in general has fallen into. And now we're reaping the results of that. And I think we're starting to turn that around. I think that more and more candidates, at least the candidates we're seeing at Personal PAC and that we're helping to elect, that they really get that sense. There's no way to, in any way, shape, or form, to give the wingers enough, and that it should be a private decision between a woman and her doctor. Full stop. There are no exceptions to that. Let women make the decisions about their health. And so I think in this, this new iteration of the pro-choice movement, which I think there is an awakening that's happening, and a lot of young people are really involved with it now. They're not going to. I think in this next chapter, the pro-choice movement is just going to realize that we just can't settle for that any small attack on reproductive rights really represents an attack on all women.
Mm-hmm. Well, in relation to this birth control matter, I would bet you the argument made back in 2011, whenever the law was passed, I can't remember at the moment, whenever Obamacare was passed, the argument would be made, well, Ben and Terry, this is something we have to live with in order to get the votes we need to pass Obamacare. So it's a minor compromise on the road to a greater victory. I don't know whose votes were won over by this compromise.
No, and you bring up a really good point, because during the ACA, there were 13 anti-choice Democrats, of which one of them was our soon-to-be former Congressperson Lipinski. Shout out to Marie Newman right here. And these 13 Democrats withheld their vote for the ACA unless abortion was removed as a covered medical procedure, and this religious refusal piece was put into the ACA. And then you know what the 13 of them did? They voted no on the ACA after the Democrats bent over backwards to give them everything they wanted. That was an attack on reproductive rights. And the people I got into arguments with will remain nameless because they're really good people that went along with this. And now, what do we find? Now, what's the end result of that is the birth control mandate in Obamacare has been decimated, and that there's no abortion care, no federal ballot. The Hyde Amendment was enshrined in the ACA.
Yeah. And just let's think about how, go ahead, finish your thought.
And I just want to say, I understood on one level, I didn't approve of it, but I understood on one level how the Democrats desired to give millions of uninsured people who desperately needed health care coverage, the coverage they deserved and they needed. I understood that. It just said it was tragic that in order to do that, like, women needed to be thrown under the bus. And that was the really horrible part of it. It was like, it was a horrible Sophie's choice, if you will. And then to have it turn out to blow up in their face, it just adds insult to injury. But at least Lipinski isn't around anymore.
Yeah. What about and then it didn't win any Republican votes, and from
not a single one. No.
And that was from the moment Obamacare was passed, the Republicans have been fighting to destroy it, and so you made a compromise that you didn't have to make. You didn't win one vote of support. This is classic centrist Democrat thought. And you end up in this situation where you open the door for the Supreme Court to undercut this very important provision. And Terry, while you were talking, I thought of this about these two rulings when you think about them in conjunction. The first ruling, it has to do with limiting the access women have to abortion on the grounds that people vehemently oppose abortion. All right, you vehemently oppose abortion. So that means you might think you might want to promote a little birth control so that women wouldn't have to face the quandary. But no, the Supreme Court is now undercutting women's ability to get access to birth control. If I didn't know any better, I just think this was just like they just want to punish women for being women.
Oh, that's exactly it. I mean, in fact, I'm writing a piece right now. I don't know when I'll be done with it. Titled "The quote pro-life unquote movement has been killing people for decades," because it's people. It's been so frustrating to talk to elected officials and beg them to listen to the scientists, the healthcare professionals, and people who construct sound public policy, to talk to them about the very issue that you're speaking of. And we can add in there comprehensive sexuality education as well as access to birth control. Dramatically reduces not only the need for and the number of abortions in this country. And I'm not, in saying that, I don't mean in any way. Abortion is a healthcare decision. End of statement. So I don't mean to say that reducing it is a bad or a good thing. I'm just saying if that's your motive, and the less healthcare that people need, the better for prevention. But they have refused, and we have elected officials who have gone along with this insanity that you just brought up. And now I really think it's coming home to haunt us, because now these same governors that claim to be quote unquote pro-life are now in charge of their COVID policies in their states. And what are they doing? They're turning around and they're doing stuff that is directly leading to the death of tens of thousands of people. I think we're up to 140,000 Americans are dead, because there is a movement called the right-wing, anti-choice, anti-science movement in this country that refuses to acknowledge sound public policy and science. And what you just brought up about the birth control the whole idea of, we know, just another example of it that is so maddening, is that we know that condom use drastically reduces HIV transmission. We know it in countries all over the world, and we know it in the United States. And the anti-choice movement is against, as is the Catholic Church, I have to throw that in there, is against condom use. And here, HIV kills so many people all over the world, and luckily there's been therapies to deal with that. But that's just another example where public health officials and scientists haven't been listened to about what do we do to promote public health, which fits into the whole birth control situation that you've been talking about.
No, I don't know if I raised this the last time we were on the show. I've mentioned this more than once. The bizarre attitude that the Republicans have toward the sanctity of life. They're vehemently opposed to any abortion. But then when it comes to wearing a mask and COVID, they're like, well, Ben, it's just old people dying anyway. I'm like, what?
No, it's an infringement on their constitutional personal rights to be asked and to wear a mask, but it's not an impingement on a woman's constitutional rights to control her reproductive health care. That's the part that gets me, that a mask is such a horrible personal intrusion, but denying a woman access to reproductive health care somehow isn't at all,
Or, let's just tie it in completely with the whole notion of cancel culture, where right wingers, Republicans, MAGA hat wearers get really upset when lefties or liberals try to oppose someone that they think is raising racist or homophobic remarks. They said you gotta stop being a snowflake, all right, and just accept whatever they say. And then they turn right around and go, well, I gotta be against giving birth control, making birth control as part of this healthcare plan because it hurts my feelings. My feelings, as my religious feelings have been hurt. Wait, how come I have to man it up when you hurt my feelings and violate my deeply felt beliefs? But when your deeply felt beliefs are, you need a Supreme Court ruling. You run to the, talk about snowflakes. You guys run to the Supreme Court. Help me, right? Am I right, Terry?
No, absolutely. No.
Don't get me started on the right. But
listen. We could spend 10 shows on that, but
no. Yeah, I know. Now,
so, but I think I think.
Go ahead.
Let me do the segue here. So the really important thing, since we're talking about the right wing, is that they are very, very disciplined in going out and voting for their candidates. And it's really, if your listeners are listening to this and are nearly as outraged as you and I are about this, then it's really incumbent upon people to take this election very, very seriously and make sure that everyone that we know goes out and votes and does their civic duty to change things around, because that's what we have to do. That's really what's facing us right now.
All right, we'll get to the election, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and the Senate majority. That the whole fight for the battle of the Senate is something that we should talk about as well. But before we do that, what's any updates that people need to know about reproductive rights bills right here in the state of Illinois?
Sure. Two things are going on. The first is there are 27 anti-choice bills pending in the Illinois General Assembly right now as we're on the radio program, and I won't go into there. It's just all the worst stuff that you can imagine is in these 27 bills. There's a document on the Personal PAC website, personalpac.org, that people can go to and take a look at what these bills are. So that's on the bad side. On the other bad side is that we have a parental notice of abortion bill in Illinois, which puts the health and lives of young women at risk who are forced to tell abusing relatives, as well as a whole bunch of other horrible things about this bill. It's a law, but we have a bill to repeal the parental notice of abortion law. So it's really important that everyone listening pick up their phone or send an email to their state representative and state senator asking them to vote yes on the repeal of parental notice, or just say we're opposed to parental notice. Please support the bill to repeal it. So those are the two things that I can offer that's going on in Springfield around that issue.
All right, very good. There's always a fight going on in Springfield on this. Now let's move on to national politics. You already alluded to this. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, the implications for reproductive rights. Talk a little bit about it, Terry.
Well, I think number one thing is the Supreme Court. I mean, we are looking, we're looking at the precipice now with the current makeup of the court. And let's not forget that other than Clarence Thomas, I haven't looked up the age of all the justices, but the right wingers, of course, are the ones that are the youngest, and the liberal progressives are the ones who are on the older side. One in particular, I think everyone knows who that is. And if Trump wins re-election, we're basically looking at him possibly getting one, if not two or three more appointments to the court. And then if people think things are bad now, I can't even imagine what they'll be like then. So that's number one. And again, going back to the right wingers, they are very, very disciplined about not caring about Donald Trump, the person, and how hideous he is on so many levels. I don't have to list them all. I think we all know, but they're willing to put all that aside and vote for him and other right wingers because they understand that what's at stake is appointments to the Supreme Court as well as U.S. Senate races and all the other policy issues that go along with it. So, Ben, I have boiled this Trump Biden thing down to a very simple equation here. It really doesn't matter how strongly we feel or don't feel about Donald Trump or Joe Biden. To be clear, I'm a huge supporter of Biden. I think he'll make a good president, but that really doesn't matter to all of us listening here. What we really need to think about is that when we find out, I would say when we wake up on November 4th, we may not know the outcome of the election by then. I hope that we will. But no matter what the issue is that people care about, whether it's issues concerning organized labor, whether it's climate change, whether it's reproductive rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental justice, racial injustice, the real question is which of these two men are going to be easier to deal with when it comes to the agenda that we progressives care about. And there is no doubt in my mind, and there shouldn't be in anyone's mind, that that's Joe Biden. And so I just think it's that simple that we don't have to get into any arguments, really. We know how bad Donald Trump is. We know what Joe Biden's history has been and what his proposals are. But in the end, it's really about which one of these people is going to help us into the next decade. So that's it.
Yeah. And I just want to let everybody know that on this Friday, I'll be having a longer discussion with David Ferris, regular on the show, and we'll go taking the deep dive on who's ahead, who's behind, right, and all the strategies in Trump Biden. So I want to promote that show that's coming up. And in addition, Terry, there's a very important battle for the control of the Senate. And this is something I haven't spent a lot of time talking about, but I will start talking about it more. Because in some ways, I would say that Biden Trump's the most important, no question about it. But if Mitch McConnell maintains control of the Senate, he can cause a lot of damage, even if Joe Biden is elected as our president. As we saw what Mitch McConnell did to Barack Obama in those last couple of years of Obama's term. So, talk a little bit about the fight for the Senate and how important that is.
Right. Well, it's really important because, I'll just give you one example. If we really want to get rid of voter suppression, there could be a federal law that could pass the United States Congress that would require that that would get rid of a lot of the voter suppression tactics that are now taking place. And we're not going to be able to do that with Mitch McConnell as Senate president. I mean, I don't think there's any. They call it majority leader, don't they? Senate majority leader. Yeah, they call it Senate president in Illinois. So with him there, I mean, he has bragged that he has filled 200 federal vacancies. He has filled every single federal vacancy in the court in a shorter time than most presidents with 2 terms have had to do. So that's just like that was his number one goal. He accomplished that. He has held up, the Voting Rights Act, everything that we can imagine that would be good for this country. He has single-handedly held it up in the Senate, and I have to say, with the help of all of his Republican colleagues. So it's not just at his doorstep; it's everyone else that goes along with him. But he is the majority leader. So fortunately, in Illinois, we do not have, we're not trying to defeat one of his senators. We're trying to hang on to one, which is Dick Durbin. But there's 4. The Democrats need to flip 4 seats, assuming that Jones in Alabama loses, which I'm not so sure. That's a bet that the Republicans have already won. So, but 4 Senate seats need to be flipped, and there's probably 7 to 9 of them now that are potential. Some are longer shots than others. But getting rid of Mitch McConnell is priority number 2, and behind electing Biden, because if he's there to hold up the agenda and everything that needs to happen, then we're in big trouble. It's not. And the other thing is he can hold up Biden's Supreme Court appointments for as long as he wants. Look what he got away with Merrick Garland.
Yeah. And,
so it's really it's very, very important, and I am heartened that that the Senate Democratic candidates are raising so much money and have really good candidates. I mean, there's a bunch of really great candidates out there. I mean, Hickenlooper in Colorado has been on choice. In every other way, he has been really a hero of the pro-choice community. Speaking of birth control, he made the birth control of a woman's choice available at no cost for 5 years. And guess what happened? The abortion rate in the teenage pregnancy was reduced by 50%, in half, 50%. And then, of course, you've got Susan Collins, who, I've been, since the day she voted for Kavanaugh, I've been contributing on a monthly basis to her defeat. So that will be that's another one. And then there's Georgia, and there's North Carolina, and there's Montana, and of course there's Mark Kelly in Arizona. And so there's a lot of great opportunities to do it, and we need to keep at it. Ben, I want to throw in one other thing since we're talking about elections. I mean, people don't need to get in their cars and drive to Wisconsin or Michigan anymore to go door to door. I am amazed online how many volunteer opportunities that are available to all of us sitting in our homes. There's postcard. There's organizations that are having people send personal postcards to the swing states. There's phone calls you can make to people in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Florida. There are so many ways. So anyone that is if you're feeling anxious about the election, don't be anxious. Go online, find one of these things to volunteer for, and commit an hour or two a day to contacting voters in other states. Now, you can also do a lot in Illinois. I have 11 anti-choice House Republicans we're trying to defeat on November 3rd here in the Illinois House, and as well as some in the Senate. So there is an unlimited amount of volunteer work that people can do sitting in their home. Again, you don't have to get on a bus and spend a day going to Wisconsin to knock on doors in Green Bay. People can do it sitting from their home in front of their computer or on their phone. And Ben, do you have any of? I was thinking about this before the call. I mean, do you have any of these organizations and these efforts up on your website at all? Because I was going to say, I can't rattle them off right now, but if people had a source of where they could go to do that.
No, we don't, but we'll, yeah, it is very possible. And as I was saying earlier, we're going to be, we're talking with you about the local elections as we get closer to November.
Right.
And we're going to have plenty of conversations on the show about the Senate races. We have a lot of experts that we bring on that talk about the Meredith Shiner's going to be coming back. We're going to be talking about some of these going state by state. I mean, Colorado, Maine, Arizona, I'm doing this on top of my head, Georgia, Montana, Kentucky, Iowa, Michigan, Alabama. I mean, these are all huge showdowns. And it's not just defeating a Republican incumbent, like defeating Ernst in Iowa, for instance, or Collins in Maine. It's holding on to a Democratic seat like Doug Jones. That's going to be a tough one in Alabama, but it would be quite a victory. And of course, the big one.
We're going to do it in the name of John Lewis. We're going to do it in the name of John Lewis, Alabama native. So.
Wow. All right. I'll buy into that one. I'll buy into that one. So yeah, we'll be talking this. Terry, before I let you go,
put on your big boy pants, Ben. Put big boy pants. Come on.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you, Mueller. Are you your personal PAC is having a big party, a fundraiser coming up? Do I have that correct?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we have our 27th annual luncheon coming up on October 21st. And of course, like almost every other big event, more than 5 people, it has to be virtual. And I could not be more excited about this year's lineup, and it's still growing. And I'm not at liberty to talk about a few other people that might come on board. But as of today, we have Jane Fonda, Kim Fox, Cecile Richards, giving awards to none other than Heather Booth, who was the founder of the Jane Collective, which was the underground organization of women who helped women prior to Roe v. Wade get safe abortions. And so Jane Fonda is presenting Heather Booth with that award, and there's going to be a Q&A with it. And then Kim Fox is presenting your friend and my friend. And Heather is getting the Irving B. Harris Spirit of Choice Award that Jane's going to give her. And then Kim Fox is giving our friend, the woman we both idolize, Toy Hutchinson, the Pro-Choice Leadership Award. And then I'm not at liberty to talk about anyone else today, but I will keep you up to date with some other big names that we're going to have involved with this event. So yeah. I think it's going to be the event of the fall that people are not going to want to miss. It's going to be informative. It's going to be fun, and we're hopefully going to knock it out of the park and raise the money that we need to defeat all these right-wingers. You know, we have a record number of right-wingers that are running in the state of Illinois. If people, in this election on November 3rd, if people go to the website and see these 27 bills that are up there, these anti-choice bills, you will understand why it's so important that we have the resources to do our job. And win
let
yet
me just
again.
say one thing. Let me say one thing about Toy Hutchinson, since you mentioned her. Toy Hutchinson used to be state senator from the southern suburbs. Come on the show all the time. She was one of the great forces when she come on the show. Man, she was one of my favorite guests because she.
Oh, Ben, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear him either. Hold on. Ben, are you there?
Okay. Dennis, you're there.
Hey, how's it going,
listen, okay. Listen, are we on the air or we're not live?
Yeah, I think we may have to wrap it up here. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about Toy Hutchinson.
Yeah, well, Toy is wonderful. She was a state senator and helped us pass both HB 40 and the Reproductive Health Act. But I think what Ben was getting to is that she really led the fight for legalization of adult use of cannabis in the state of Illinois. She is now the special advisor to the governor on implementing the cannabis legislation. And I have to say, Illinois is leading the country in terms of its criminal justice reform in our cannabis legislation. So we'll be honoring Toy for her reproductive rights work, but I know a lot of other people think the world of her because of the criminal justice work that she's been able to get done in cooperation with Kim Fox and Governor Pritzker and so many other people in state government, and we shouldn't count that out at all.
All right. Well, Terry, like I said, we're going to wrap it up here. His name is Terry Cosgrove. If there's a website people, can reach you, you want to give that or no?
Yes, www.personalpac.org. And Dennis, it's been great talking to you. I hope you're doing well, and we will talk soon.
All right. Thank you. And I'll tell Ben you said goodbye too.
Okay. Take care.
All right, buddy. See you.
Okay.